So, what you're looking at here is about the first decade of my photography. So I've been at it for about 4 decades, and it feels like it. And this particular exhibition is pretty much a generic of that first 10 years. Because what it attempted to do, it's part of, as you'll see on that text on the wall, it's part of an archiving project to digitize. Because I'm that old school, more than half of my work was done on film. And as much as I love film, the problem with film is that it disappears. So the idea was simply to pull out some of that work and kind of announce this archiving project, so that there was an awareness that the work was now digitized and more accessible. And so this is all in progress. It's a project that's in progress, so it's got a long way to go. It faces all the challenges that these kind of projects face, because I'm having to set up an NPO, and I'm having to access the resources, and it's a huge challenge in this country, as you know.
Can you help us to talk about what it is about you and photography, in terms of visualizing, in terms of a language that either you discovered in the process, you invented, like all creative? Can you, because you've been insistent about photography as a black and white in terms of light.
Well, I can't say I'm completely and totally invested in black and white as an aesthetic. Black and white was simply an available medium at the time, in the sense that what it did is it allowed us to be able to control the process of, because it's an important process of being able to produce the image and control as much as possible the print. Back in the day, it was the print that mattered, and black and white darkroom allowed you to shape that print and bring out its best aesthetic possibilities in that process. Now you could do the same in a color darkroom, even back then. But a color darkroom, the color darkroom costs several times more than the black and white darkroom. And when I began in photography, there wasn't even the possibility of earning an income when I set out to be a photographer. There was no comprehension of how one would monetize this process. We went on blind faith. And so there was an economy of means that determined the process. And then you mastered it. And so as my financial situation improved and I was able to start experimenting with color, for instance, especially like what we call slide, ectochrome color, I found that, this was for instance, if you produced a slide image, that was it. It was cast in stone unless you now went and had it scanned again and reproduced again. And that normally was quite a sophisticated process that you actually had to go back to a lab to do.
I have a very different experience in relation to how black people relate to the dark figure. And for me, I grew up seeing people having a very normal And by normal, I mean a loving relationship with the animals. In fact, you know, people named their dogs. I mean, this is a very common name, Ubobi, Danger. I know it sounds like they have a contentious relationship with their dog if they're naming it Danger, but it's really about seeing one's dog as a protector, right?
Well, you know, it's not something. It's not a subject that I consciously. It's a thread that's emerged in my archive, the exploration of the archive, because I have had all those questions, but I can't say that I took on that as a project to consciously go out and look at that. But I related to it constantly, you know, and I had all my own theories, you know, my Kasi theories about dogs, because, you know, for instance, if you see in the suburbs, most black people, they don't walk on the pavements, they walk on the road. Because those pavements, they can be hazardous. Because those dogs in the township, those are a danger for real, for you as a. And so there's maybe when people see black people in what was a white environment, right? And that legacy lives on, right? When they see them relating to dogs in that environment, look, black people are in hostile territory, and the dogs know it, because the dogs are an iteration of their owners. The dogs relate to their owners. They pick up, you know, what their owners fear. They respond to that. So, of course, in the urban environment, the white urban environment, black people behaved in one way to dogs, in their own environment. So they had a different relationship there because, as I say, when they went into those white areas, they were in hostile territory. Those dogs were bred and designed to be hostile to black people. In fact, I lived in this house down here, just down here. And I used to take her into the park when she'd visit. Yeah, and when I was much younger, and I still am a very shy person, so I found that I could relate. The only people I really could relate to easily were kids. So in my early stage of life, I photographed a lot of kids because I just felt more comfortable with them, and they were more. Kids are curious and they want to know what you're doing and they want to engage with you and interact with you. And I went through this as a rite of passage, you know, kids making these little go-karts, and this is a sloped hill. And this area now, I'm told that I won't point him out, but I'm told because I showed this work in Durban, I'm told that one of these characters here became a notorious drug lord. So, so this place, this is Wentworth. This place is notorious for gangsterism, and I photographed Wentworth, but I chose not to focus on the gangsterism because gangsterism is a byproduct of. These are more. In fact, the irony is that these houses that you see here are the more sort of bougie houses in Wentworth, because the rest of them are tenement blocks, you know, with tenement block culture, and so Wentworth today, that refinery has now been shut down. So Wentworth was stuck between a toxic petroleum refinery that was poisoning its people, and unemployment. And now when the factory closed down, the air quality has improved, so people are no longer dying of cancer, but now they're dying of poverty and gang violence, because the place is ridden with substance abuse. And it's a turf war that takes place, like in the Cape. But you know, I've lived long enough to know where I once a substance abuser myself, and I hung out in Windhoek as a substance abuser in my early pre-photography days. And I can tell you a little anecdote about Windhoek. That in Windhoek there was a notorious drug squad cop. We all knew him by name. We knew him by name and we could recognize him. We knew that when we saw him, you ran. His name was Bassie Smith, Colonel Bassie Smith. So Colonel Bassie Smith turned out to be a security branch, a high-ranking security branch member who came to map out the territory in Wentworth and Durban and put in place his team of dealers that he chose to work with him, and flip us ganja users into buttons users. Buttons being methadone.